Hello everyone, welcome back. I cannot tell you guys how excited I am for fall and just everyone's fall content, fall book recs. I'm just ready. I'm ready. The leaves are already changing where I live, just a little early, but I'll take it. It's been so rainy and gloomy as well. It's just, I want to scream with how excited I am. So with that being said, I have 10, we'll see if it's more. 10 book recs to get you in the perfect fall mood. Alright, we're gonna start off here strong with, I would argue, is the queen of Gothic romances. Carrie Lake has hit it out of the park for me every single time. Granted, I've not read all of her books, but the ones I've read have been incredible. Nocticadia was the first book I read this year, and it is such a gothic and spooky setting, and the story is also incredibly well written alongside with the romance, which, when combined, make a 5-star read in my book. This story is about Lilia. Lilia grew up on the wrong side of the tracks in a poorer area, and when her mom dies of a mysterious illness that no one has any information on, this leads her to apply to Dracadia, which is a prestigious, secluded university on an island in Maine. So already with that kind of woodsy, dark vibe. She meets Professor Bramwell, Deverick Bramwell, and he is a pathologist studying illnesses, specifically what we assume to have taken Lilia's mother's life. And thus, a forbidden romance starts. This book was very creepy and unsettling, and there was so much mystery around what was going on behind the scenes. I loved this book, and I think this is a perfect fall read if you are wanting to start off your spooky season with a little bit of romance. Also, little Build-A-Bear, look at how cute he is. Alright, I'm throwing another Carrie Lake book in here because I think it deserves to be talked about more than I've seen it be talked about. This is Master of Salt and Bones. This was also knocking it out of the park for me. This is another gothic, dark romance. Anyways, Master of Salt and Bones follows Issa. She is a live-in nurse. She's contracted to go and live in this manor to take care of an elderly woman. There she meets the owner of the manor, the elderly woman's son, and he is very rude, withdrawn, morally gray, just kind of an asshole. And Issa doesn't like him very much. But there is so much speculation about this family in particular that has lived at this manor for years that Issa starts learning little crumbs and bits and pieces, and Lucian, the owner of the manor, is slowly enamored by Issa. Thus, a forbidden romance blossoms yet again. So if you are also looking for another gothic romance, boom, another one for you. Continuing on. I would say these two have been talked about all over TikTok for the last year and a half. I would have to agree with all the good press that these books have, because these are, I would say, the perfect gothic fantasy if you are trying to get into that, or just a beginner in your reading journey. One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns. This was to be expected. These were both 5 stars for me, and this story was so incredible. I know everyone says this, but the magic system was so unique. Not only that, but all of the family trees of this kingdom, the different houses, are actually named based off of trees, which I think is such a cute little detail. We follow Elspeth Spindle. This kingdom has been shrouded in mist and is unable to contact other kingdoms or the outside world for centuries, it seems like now, because of an illness that gives people magic, and these people view magic as a bad thing. Well, Elspeth, she's sick, she's got the magic, and it is manifested in the form of a monster creature that shares her consciousness. While trying to navigate different court politics and just figuring out why she was given this specific kind of magic, she meets an unlikely crew and they start this journey together. The best way I could describe the magic system in this is if tarot cards were to be magical, and if the death card were to be the most magical of them all. This book has romance, it has a great fantasy plot, and super spooky gothic setting. I really did love Elspeth's character, and Raven as well. You'll meet him if you read these. But yes, I highly recommend these if you are just looking for a good gothic fantasy. Now, I have said that Carrie Lake is the queen of gothic romance, in my opinion, but Rachel Gillig is also getting up there too. One Dark Window, Two Twisted Crowns were a hit. This, also incredible. This is her most recent release. This is The Night and the Moth, and you've probably heard everyone and their mom talking about this unless you live under a rock, which that's okay. This was a 5-star read for me. Her writing is so riddle-esque and really beautiful and so detailed. It paints such a beautiful picture in your mind.
Wow.
This is about Sybil. Sybil can predict the future with omens, and in this world specifically, omens and those who predict the future, that is their form of religion. So Sybil and her 5 sisters are all able to read these omens and predict someone's future. But when her sisters start going missing from the cathedral that she calls home, she has to partner up with one of the king's knights, the most rude and brooding and has no interest in her, to help find her sisters. I think the plot in this was so enjoyable and it was paced incredibly well. The characters were all so interesting in their own ways and had so much personality to them. This is such a fresh take on a fantasy romance. Not to mention, it does have a lot of medieval influence and little sprinkles of just medieval fun, and I love that. So you guys should also pick this up if you haven't yet. Okay, this one, I hope y'all don't come for me for this, but if you're just starting your reading journey and you're trying to get into thrillers, I would highly recommend Verity. I'm not the biggest fan of Colleen Hoover, but I think this was so good. I know it's being turned into a movie with Dakota Johnson and Anne Hathaway, which I'm actually really excited about, seeing the train wreck that was It Ends With Us.
Grab your friends, wear your florals.
This is about Lowen. Lowen gets a job as a ghostwriter for Verity, who is a very popular author, and she has been out of commission for a little while dealing with health struggles and an accident that left her unable to finish a lot of the projects she was currently working on. Well, Verity's husband still lives in the home, and Lowen is left with all of these questions as to why Verity's accident left her this way. There is a lot of very unsettling, creepy things that go on, and you truly don't know what's going on until the end. So for a thriller, I think this was so enjoyable, and I think that you should pick this up. More thrillers should have romance in them. That is my petition. So yeah. Okay, we're back on our knees. Sorry, that was weird. This book was really popular last year, and the second standalone was just released a few months ago, but I will keep recommending it because of how fun it was. I think Phantasma is the perfect spooky season read. It had such a fun, fresh take on trials. I think trials can be really repetitive in fantasy nowadays. Thank you, Hunger Games. No one can quite top that. This is about Ophelia. She is a necromancer and comes from a family of witches and people who deal in voodoo, okay? And there is a competition that comes around every year at this haunted mansion, and she finds out that her sister enrolled in the competition. In order to save her sister, Ophelia thinks it's a great idea to also enroll in the competition. She was put in a different cohort than her sister, so she has no idea whether or not her sister's alive. But traveling through this spooky mansion, she meets Blackwell, a ghost, who you can't really tell if he's on board to help her or not. But as Ophelia progresses throughout the trials, There's a little bit of romance that starts. This book was so incredibly fun. I will probably reread this for this season, and I think you should too. With that being said, the second standalone Enchantra was released, and that is Ophelia's sister. Enchantra is Genevieve's story, and she is kind of trying to find her way in the world, while Ophelia is okay holding down the fort and doing what needs to be done for her family's business. Genevieve goes to Italy to try and find herself, but she also gets an invitation from one of her mom's old friends. Little does she know, she is thrown into this family's competition as they are shackled to a demon and forced to do this competition every year. If you like Phantasma, you will also like Enchantra. This next recommendation is my current read right now. I'm about 50% of the way through, and I'm still going to recommend it because I am thoroughly enjoying it. It gives very unsettling, creepy vibes, so I think it is perfect for this video. It's called Slewfoot. It's on Kindle Unlimited. Oh, Is It a Tale of Bewitchery? We are following Abatha, who is living in Connecticut during the 1600s, where Puritan culture and Christian ideology is running rampant. Women can't even show their hair without it being deviltry. They go and spend their night in the stocks, chained up, outside. Anyways, Abatha, she wanders around the woods, she lives off the land, and she lives with her husband Edward, but Edward's brother, Wallace, is an evil man trying to take their land, and when something happens to Edward, Abatha is left on her lonesome, or so she thinks, because an entity is awakening, and it may have some malice intentions. Unbeknownst to Abatha, this creature lives on her land and starts creating some havoc, that is for sure. That's the part I'm at right now. I think it is so good. I do think you should read it if you are wanting something on par with One Dark Window, because that's kind of what it reminds me of. Yeah, do it that way you will. I am going to slip this book in wherever I can. I read this a few weeks ago, Between Two Fires. This is an epic tale of medieval horror. This was a 6-star read for me. This is about a knight, an orphaned girl, and a priest traveling through France during the bubonic plague, or the Black Death, or whatever you want to call it, while some very strange, unsettling, demonic stuff starts to pop up throughout the country. The dynamic in this very much reminds me of the Hound and Arya's dynamic from Game of Thrones, maybe even Joel and Ellie from The Last of Us. The writing in this, I would say, is a little hard to decipher, but once you get into the flow of it, it is very, very enjoyable. I think the overarching message of this book is so meaningful and impactful, even with all the weird, creepy stuff that goes down. So, yeah, read this. A Dowry of Blood. This was also one of my favorite reads this year so far. We are following Constanta and reading through a series of her love letters to Dracula throughout her life and her time with him. I don't know if I would argue that this is a retelling. Dracula's name is not mentioned once throughout this entire book, which I think sets it further apart from a retelling, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Not only that, but the writing in this was so poetic and impactful and truly beautiful. It brought me to tears multiple times. This book brings up a lot of important themes and ideas. Reading through the point of view of Constanta, you can tell that she is somewhat of an unreliable narrator, and that just makes the story so much more interesting. I think everyone should read this. It's truly not that long. I devoured it in a few days. It is such a magnificent take on vampires. This is a book I read last week. It is called Once There Were Wolves. This was on par with a lot of thrillers and horror books I have read. It was very dark compared to what I was expecting. This is about Aggie and her sister Inti. They moved to Scotland because Inti is a biologist. She's working on reintroducing wolves into the Scottish Highlands. With that, a lot of the farmers and the citizens do not agree with this whatsoever. That brings a lot of problems, challenges, arguments, and a lot of danger for Inti and her team. When one of these farmers who has opposed this reintroduction pact goes missing, this is when the story really starts to spiral. There was so much to these characters in this book. I really enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. That's why I'm recommending it to you. This book does have a lot of dark, gory, gruesome scenes and a lot of raw emotions and trauma, but I think it is so worth it. The setting is obviously beautiful, misty, woodsy Scotland. That adds to the creepy, mysterious inner workings of what goes down in this book. I think this is worth your time. All right, that is all I have for you, honestly. If you guys have read these books, let me know what your thoughts were down in the comments. If you guys have more book recs for me, because I will always take a good Gothic romance or fantasy, dark, unsettling vibes, please also let me know in the comments. I will be doing a video on my personal fall TBR here soon, but yeah, I hope you guys add these to your TBR, and I will see you guys next time. Mwah.